Hi, boys and girls. I'm continuing our Roman Empire review. This is number 2. And these are the baths. And I know that I sent this to you. I sent that to you in black and white. I thought you might like to see the baths for yourselves in color. So yeah, they all take a bath in the buff. Women on one side, men on the other. And it looks like they had some really hot baths. I'm not sure I want a bath that's so hot it has steam coming out of there. But they did. Now I know you've read all about that, so I want to continue. We're in our Time Traveler book. All right. The games, races, gladiators. So I want to talk about some of the things on this page. So if you see, over here, we have the chariot races. So let me show you a new picture of that. Can you see that? All right. A popular pastime for Romans was attending chariot races at the Circus Maximus. It's a long oval arena that held up to 250,000 people. Specially built chariots pulled by teams of 2 or 4 horses raced around the 1-mile course, and the chariot consisted of a 2-wheeled cart with an open platform in the back. Skilled charioteers became heroes if they survived. So what else do we see happening? Down here we see the gladiators, and the gladiators were usually prisoners or slaves. So I have 2 kinds. I want to show that to you. All right, so we have, here we go, boom. This guy is called Retiarius, and this is the gladiator. One of the most popular spectator events at the Colosseum was the gladiator fights. Most gladiators were slaves, prisoners, or criminals. There were various types of gladiators, and each with distinct weapons. The Retiarius, that's this guy, was equipped with a net to catch his opponent. So, you know, it was probably an animal. And a trident with which he stabbed him. You see that 3-pronged weapon? That's a trident. So he would be the one who had to fight the animals. And sometimes Christians were thrown into the Colosseum, and they would have to fight animals because they stood for Jesus. Okay. I wanted to show you a bigger picture of the Colosseum. Can you see that? All right. Many amphitheaters were built in the Roman Empire, and the largest and most famous is the Colosseum in Rome, originally known as the Flavian Amphitheater. Completed in 80 AD, it was the site of countless spectacular and violent shows, such as gladiator fights, reenactments of battles, and staged animal hunts. So, yeah, a lot going on in the Colosseum. And today, if you go to Rome, you can still see the ruins, the remnant of the Colosseum. It's huge, and you can see what's left of it. So hopefully someday you can visit. All right, let's turn the page. Building in the city. So I want to talk about a couple things in this picture that you have already reviewed. One of them being this. Remember what that is? That's the aqueduct. I have a picture of aqueduct. Let me find it. Okay. Here we go. So can you see? Can you see? Can you see? There we go. You can see that. Okay. During times of peace, the Roman army built these huge aqueducts to carry water to the cities. Each aqueduct had to be angled slightly downhill because the water was moved by gravity. At the top, stone slabs covered the water channel to keep out dirt. Altogether, about 200 cities in the Roman Empire received water by way of an aqueduct. So they were busy building these aqueducts, and you can still see some of the ruins of those in Europe today. So what else do we see in this picture that I want to talk about? This mosaic, and you guys could probably do mosaics at home if you had any kind of pieces of tile. I want to talk about some mosaics. Show you what I have here. And some are beautiful. Okay, can you see that? Mosaics were often used to decorate the floor of a Roman house. A mosaic is a picture or design made up of many small pieces of glass, stone, pottery, or brick. These pieces are called tesserae. The pieces could be laid directly into the cement on the floor, or they could be glued to a piece of canvas to make a ready-to-lay-down mosaic. So they have these all over. All right, let's move on to review Petronius giving his feast. So what do we have here that we can talk about more? First, I want to talk about the triclinium. There you go. The dining room in the home of a well-to-do Roman was called a triclinium. For a banquet, 3 couches were arranged around a central table, each couch providing a place for 3 people to lay. A banquet would last several hours and many courses would be served. So you can see that Petronius is he's got the table and the 3 couches. He also must be really well-to-do because back here he has another table with the less important guests. Oh my. That's called a triclinium. That's what that room was called. Now, if you see over here, we have some musicians. So I wanted to show you they have a picture of lyre. There we go. There we go. That's one of the instruments that they would have. And then here we have some of the Roman types of food eaten by those citizens of Rome, depending on how wealthy they were. The common diet consisted of grain made into porridge, along with eggs and cheese. But the more wealthy people ate more meat and a wide variety of fruits and vegetables cooked with many spices, and most people drank wine mixed with water. I like the grapes. I like the fruit. Fish is good. Yeah, looks like a pretty healthy diet there. What do you think? All right, let's continue. Here we have summer on the farm. I just had a couple things to show you to add to your learning. This, and I would have had this in the city or on the farm. You see that? Romans, men and women, visited public baths to bathe and socialize. The baths were made up of several rooms, some hot and some cold. Some rooms were dry and some were steamy, and there was usually a swimming pool. Instead of using soap, a person would rub oil on his or her body and then scrape the oil and dirt off with a metal scraper called a strigil. That is that. So I should have shown this on the bath page, but they would have these at their home as well if they were in the country, because they couldn't get to the baths in the city, so they'd have their own. But interesting, oil instead of soap. I like my soap. Okay, and then here are some different containers that they may have had to keep things in, various jars, like if they needed to put wine in something. A lot of you drew the people stomping the grapes. I think that would have been fun. Here we have Marcus joining the army. Here is a special soldier called a legionary. A legionary was a member of a legion, the main fighting unit of the Roman army. Each legion was made up of about 5,000 foot soldiers. Only Roman citizens could join the army. Legionaries were well armed, rigorously trained, and brutally disciplined, making the Roman army one of the greatest in history. Legionaries also built aqueducts, roads, walls, and tunnels. So they were definitely multi-talented. And this is what they would have dressed up. I mean, their armor would have looked like. And I think, yep, that takes us to this week's. So we'll talk about more Roman studies next week. I'll see you then.